Okay, I'm not joking when I say this. It looks like NEL Isagi might actually become completely useless. Like, genuinely worse than even some of the legendary tier characters, and honestly, for example, weaker than Kunigami. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, before everyone panics, I want to clarify. The keyword here is might, because as of right now, it hasn't happened yet. But the direction things are going, it's not looking great for NEL Isagi. So here's what's going on. Yesterday, a new poll dropped in the official Blue Lock Rivals Discord. And this one wasn't about new content or reworks. It was about one very specific question. Should we remove the stun from NEL Isagi's blind spot move? At first, it might not sound like a big deal, but trust me, if you've played Neel Isagi even once, you know exactly how important that stun is. It's literally the one thing that gives him something that keeps him in world-class tier, and I know it's logically incorrect to leave his stun in his kit, but still. Without it, his kit falls apart completely. Now here's where things get concerning. Even though the poll results currently show that most people voted no, meaning they don't want the stun removed, one of the lead devs, Spax, jumped into the thread and said something that completely changed the tone of the discussion. He wrote, "I'm gonna do this too, but so we're clear. A 6% majority is a tiny margin." And then right after that, he added, "And stun moves are stupid." Just because NEL Isagi ain't used as much doesn't mean it ain't annoying. That right there basically confirms it. Even if the community doesn't fully agree, the devs are clearly leaning toward removing it anyway. Which means, yeah, NEL Isagi's only remaining strong move might actually be getting deleted soon. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this change could completely destroy him, because if they remove the stun, he'll have absolutely nothing that sets him apart from other characters anymore. His old lefty shoot was already removed, and that was another massive nerf. And I mean, I was enjoying matches when there were no lefty shoots, but his stun? And if you've been keeping up with my previous videos, you already know there was another poll not long ago where they were discussing vaulting Neel Isagi entirely. Basically removing him from the game temporarily until they can rework him. So now we're seeing two things happening side by side. One poll about vaulting him, and another about removing his stun. That's not a coincidence. That's a clear sign that they're preparing to take him out of the meta completely. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually agree with what Spax said about stun moves being annoying. He's right about that part. Stuns in general aren't really skill-based. They're frustrating to play against, and they can completely ruin the flow of the game. But at the same time, you can't just remove one of the only tools that make a style viable without giving it something else in return. Because if you take away the stun from Neel Isagi's blind spot and don't replace it with a new mechanic or some kind of compensating buff, then he's basically done. He'll drop below world-class tier instantly. And that's not even an exaggeration. I honestly think he'd end up performing worse than Kunigami, who's a legendary tier style that anyone can pull from spins. And think about how crazy that sounds. A world-class tier style, one of the supposed elite, would literally be weaker than a legendary tier that almost everyone owns. That's not balance, that's a downgrade. Now let's be real here. Neel Isagi's current state already isn't great. Ever since they removed lefty shoot, he hasn't felt the same. That was the move that made him scary. And yeah, it was broken. It could stop awakening shots and cancel half of the game's mechanics. Now he's just this weird in-between version of himself. Not as strong as before, but also not reworked enough to be relevant. And if they remove the stun from blind spot, that's it. He officially becomes a filler style. The kind of character you pull once, try out for a few matches, and then forget about because there's literally no reason to use him anymore. You'd honestly be better off running Kunigami at that point. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Kunigami, who's a legendary tier and got nerfed recently, would still outperform NEL Isagi even after all his changes. And the reason is simple. Kunigami at least has consistency. He can still hit from range, his body blocks work, and he's not dependent on a single gimmick to be good. Meanwhile, NEL Isagi is hanging by a thread, and if that stun gets deleted, that thread snaps completely. And it's not just Kunigami either. Even characters like Shidu are starting to feel like direct upgrades of NEL Isagi's concept. They both have dashes, they both have heavy offensive playstyles, and Shidu even has 2 shots in his base kit, while NEL Isagi has 1. Except here's the difference. Shido is mythic tier and NEL Isagi is world class. That's supposed to mean NEL Isagi is better, right? But at this point, he's not. If anything, Shido is basically what NEL Isagi used to be before all the nerfs. So yeah, if this stun removal actually goes through, I think it's safe to say NEL Isagi would officially become one of the weakest world-class characters in the entire game. Now, I know some people will say, well, maybe they'll rework him right after. And sure, maybe that's the plan. But if that's the case, then I think they should just vault him immediately instead of letting him stay in the game as this broken, incomplete mess. There's no point in keeping a style active when it's not fun to play or play against. And honestly, that might be the best solution here. Vault him for a while, rebuild him properly, and then bring him back with a full rework that makes sense. Because this halfway state he's in right now isn't doing anyone any favors. He's not strong enough to be meta, but not weak enough to be forgotten. He's just awkwardly floating in between. And let's be honest, this isn't the first time we've seen this happen. The same thing happened with NEL Rin. He got a rework just a few weeks ago, and now even he's under risk of being vaulted. It's like a pattern at this point. Styles get reworked too fast, they get broken or unfinished, and then they get shelved until further notice. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens to NEL Isagi too. But what really bothers me the most is how sudden all these polls are. Because usually when the devs start asking questions like this, it means the changes are already being tested behind the scenes. They don't make these polls for fun. They make them to measure how much backlash to expect before doing something. And since Spax himself literally said he's going to do it anyway, I think it's safe to assume that this isn't just discussion. It's already decided. So yeah, I'll say it again. NEL Isagi might be finished, and I don't mean that dramatically, I mean it literally. He's already missing his signature lefty shoot, he's about to lose his blind spot stun, and the devs are openly talking about vaulting him completely. At this point, what's left? Because otherwise we're looking at a style that's going to be completely outclassed by even lower tier characters. Kunigami, Baru, Shidu, all of them would simply outperform him at every level. And again, we're talking about a world-class character here. It shouldn't be like that. So yeah, I'll end it on this note. If they're really going to remove blind spot stun, they need to either give him a compensating buff or just vault him entirely until the rework's ready. Don't leave him hanging as a half-broken style. We've already seen that mistake with other characters, and it never ends well. But that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree that NEL Isagi should be vaulted for now, or do you think they can fix him while keeping him active? And if they remove the stun, what kind of new mechanic would you want to see added in its place? Anyway, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to drop a like if you found this breakdown helpful, and of course subscribe if you want to stay updated on every upcoming leak, poll, and rework news for Blue Lock rivals. I'll keep an eye on the Discord to see what happens next. And trust me, if this stun removal actually goes through, I'll be making another video the moment it's live. See you guys soon. Peace.